I'm Dr. Lilian Papin, and I have been teaching, practicing, and exploring the world of Oriental medicine for over 30 years. So today I would like to introduce you to a basic concept of Oriental medicine, the three treasures. As you can get from the name, if it is called the three treasures, it's because they are basic to our health and well-being. So what are the three treasures? They're called the Jing, the Qi, and the Shen. And today we are going to be focusing on the Jing. So again, what is it? What does it mean? So if we look at the old character, you can see two basic characters side by side, one meaning uncooked grain and the other one meaning refinement. So there is the basic concept that we are given a material, a substance, that it is up to us to refine, to get to the best of our life and develop the Shen, the third treasure, which we will see in our third part, meaning kind of the heart or the spirit. So the Jing has been translated, or you will see it translated with different words. Sometimes it is called essence, sometimes vitality, sometimes generative energy. And all of these words are correct, and yet they're all partial and don't give the whole of the character. That's the beauty of Chinese characters. They are very multi-dimensional, and so you can get many meanings from them. So let's look at the three of them. So the Shen, which again we will see in our part 3, is the most subtle, and it's the equivalent of fire energy, light, and we find it in what is called the upper dantian. So dantian is basically the head and the upper torso. It's the upper part of the body. The Qi, the second one, the second treasure, which we will see in our part 2, is often translated as energy. So basically, the Qi is the instrument we have to connect Jing and Shen and intertransform them. So Qigong, for example, which means work with Qi, is actually an instrument or a form of exercise that we use to transform the Jing into the Shen. Now, Qi and Shen, those two treasures, depend on the strength of our Jing. And we could say that from a more spiritual point of view or esoteric point of view, human beings are the Qi that are meant to bring harmony and unify heaven and earth. So the Jing, now we're going to look at it a bit more closely, is the most substantial, you could say the most yin of the three treasures. I think all of you are familiar with yin and yang, which again has been translated in various ways or interpreted in various ways, and we're not going to go too much into that. But as you can see in this symbol, the yin is the darkness or the night, and the yang is more the light and clarity. And you could see also yin is colder and yang is more warmth and fire. All right? And sometimes people think that yin and yang, or the world of Chinese medicine is a bit old-fashioned. So here again, without going too much into detail, look at the yin and yang symbol from the old text. And as you can see, we find it in the Bagua Fuxi in 2852 BC, then 1153 BC. So as you can see, it's very old. So if we jump to our modern time, to the 17th century and 18th century, we find Leibniz, who based his calculus and binary mathematics on the yin and yang and the mathematics of yin and yang. And it led us to 1946, our first computers and electronics. So basically, when we are using our computers today, the technology is based on the old mathematics of yin and yang. Interesting, isn't it? So the Jing has a residence or let's say that it corresponds to a certain part of the body. So that part is what is called the lower dantian. You find also Mingmen, which is called the gate of life, and you can see that on the drawing. So the lower dantian includes the abdomen, the knees, the legs. It's the lower part of the body. It includes also the kidneys, and Mingmen, the gate of life, is a point that we use a lot in acupuncture that is located between the two kidneys. So basically, if we summarize, we can say Jing is a source of life. It's the force of our source of life. And so it's very much connected to kidney energy, which we're going to see in more detail. However, I'd like to widen the concept of kidney energy because sometimes we narrow the concept of kidney energy too much. And we need to include in that concept and the lower body our reproductive organs and also our intestinal area. So you can say the large intestine and the small intestine and their functions are also part of the Jing and that kidney energy. So what is that kidney energy in the body? First of all, it's a source of water, of blood, and body fluids, everything that is liquid in our body. It's also the source of our original qi, our original fire. So in order to understand that concept, think of water and the ocean, right? In the ocean or in water, we have basic fluids, but electricity also comes from water. So that means that within that water, we also have the original flame and fire. So we will see that later, but in the Jing, we have the concept of what we call today in Western medicine adrenals. That would be an equivalent. And in the Oriental thinking, basically, you could summarize aging and degeneration, loss of faculties, as a loss of Jing. So taking good care of our Jing, taking good care of our kidney energy in that thinking is really crucial to our well-being. So let's look again a bit more closely at some of the understanding of the Jing. So first of all, we distinguish between the prenatal Jing and the postnatal Jing. Prenatal is really what we inherit from our parents. And we need to go even further than that. Within that Jing, prenatal Jing, we need to include our racial inheritance, the color of our hair, the color of our eyes, of our skin, and it goes way back. So in that prenatal Jing, we find not only the physical characteristics, but also the traumas, the memories of our ancestors. So an important thinking in the old Taoist tradition is whenever you heal your own Jing, you are also healing your ancestors and your line from the wounds that happened in the past. By the same token, when you're able to break a pattern that has been running in your family, you are healing the Jing. So the Jing, again, it's the image of the ocean and it's the image of waves that go way beyond our personal physical appearance. We inherit, of course, those physical characteristics as well, but it also goes up to the spiritual level and emotional level. Another thing about the prenatal Jing, it's a fixed amount. So it is consumed by the time we die. So basically what we need to do is just the capital in a bank is that our health depends on how quickly or how slowly we consume that fixed amount of Jing. So we could say that in the Jing, we find the concept of constitution, certainly, how strong we are, how weak we are at the time of birth. So the concept of karma, what did we inherit at birth? That's part of our prenatal karma. And it's certainly not to be seen as a punishment, but more like, what are we in this world to heal? Which again can go back or can go to way beyond ourselves and can include a country, can include a tribe, can include a race, can include so many things in terms of our wounds, both physical and emotional or spiritual. In the prenatal Jing also, we find the concept that the quantity of Jing that we inherit at birth determines the quantity and the quality of our life. Now, it's not like we are determined or 100% determined by what we have in our Jing, but that's the material we need to work with and that we need to adapt to. And the rate of consumption of our capital is linked to our lifestyle. So that's where the postnatal Jing will come into play, meaning the way we live, the way we eat, the way we practice, the way we exercise. All of that will have an influence on the Jing, and in particular the postnatal Jing. So the Jing functions, you could say that it's the pilot light in the basement that heats the whole house. So if that pilot light is not working properly, nothing else is working properly. Meaning the kitchen, the cauldron, the stomach is not going to be working properly either. The heart, which we could say is the bedroom or the upper level of the house, is also not going to be working properly because everything is dependent on that basic pilot light in the basement. So the Jing is the source of our growth, reproduction, our development. For example, obviously we do not decide when our teeth appear, when our hair grows, the way our brain functions. We don't decide on our sexual characteristics and changes. All of those happen. And these are part of the Jing. Our fertility and reproductive abilities are also part of our Jing. Also linked to the Jing functions are brain functions and memory. So we could say, for example, some degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or dementia are characterized by a loss of Jing. It's also the producer of marrow, and the concept of marrow in Oriental medicine is a bit wider than the Western one and a bit different, meaning we find the marrow in our spine, in our brain, as well as in the bones. Our Jing is also the basis of our constitutional strengths and the basis of our immune system. All right, so we'll see that a little bit in more detail. But like for a child, when a child is sickly and getting sick, whenever there's a virus around catching a cold, you could say that we need to strengthen his or her Jing, that it shows a weakness of the Jing. So we find also embedded in the Jing the concept of physical destiny. And it is said in all Taoist traditions that only through the awakening of the Shen, which is more the heart energy, only through self-awareness, only through self-cultivation can we hope to change our Jing. Otherwise, the less conscious we are, the more determined we are by our Jing. So let's look now at the practical aspect. How can we evaluate our Jing? And what tools do we have? So the first thing that you would do with a Chinese medicine practitioner and that you do with any doctor is, of course, to tell your family history, because it represents the cultural background, the health background, some of the major traumas that have happened in the family, and therefore, to a great extent, the strengths and weaknesses of your own Jing. So I always encourage people to get to know as much as they can about like their mother's pregnancy, about the circumstances of their parents at the time of conception, at the times of birth, and certainly during pregnancy. If the family can recall any important events that happened, obviously people who were born during the Second World War, for example, their Jing is strongly marked by what happened during the war. So all of those are very important indicators of, you could say, the quality of the Jing or how it has been traumatized and the kind of healing that needs to happen. Another thing we can say about the Jing is, in terms of modern terms, it would correspond to the unconscious. So very often we are not aware of how determined we are, and it's a good idea, again, to bring to light all that family history and to see how it has shaped our history. So again, medical history, birth, mother's pregnancy, any birth trauma. And then we can look at our constitution. Are we strong-boned? Are we fragile in body constitution? We can look at our birth defects, and we can look at our resilience and immunity. So again, taking the example of a child that gets easily sick, obviously the Jing is not very strong, and as that person gets older, it will be an important part of his or her path to find health, to remedy those weaknesses as much as possible. And we'll get into detail about that a little bit later. So now I'd like to take you into the kidney and bladder and what is called in Chinese medicine water energy, which is the basis of the Jing, the most important aspect of the Jing. And when we say water energy, please remember that it does include all the water in the body, including in the large intestine, for example. We know that if there are about, roughly 2 liters of water in the large intestine at the beginning of the transit, there's only 1 tablespoon that comes out. So that means the large intestine, one of its major functions is to absorb that water. So that means from the point of view of water energy, the large intestine is there, and all the cells of our body are there because we are, more than 70% water. So obviously, all of our cells swim in water. All of our organs are surrounded by water. So that's what we mean by kidney and bladder energy. It's not just the organ. You can say that the organs, their function, they're kind of the little factories to regulate the water in the body. So the bladder, for example, that it's like a system to regulate the amount of water at any time in the body. So, that being said, let's look at the characteristics that are traditionally given to the kidney and bladder energy. The season that is associated to that energy is winter, meaning it's a deep, remember I told you it's kind of like the unconscious. It's the time when things are not expressed, where they're in hiding, where they're waiting. And at the same time, it's a fundamental phase, because if that phase doesn't happen, nothing can grow in the spring. But it's that dormant energy, deep unconscious energy. So the season that is a good season to replenish our kidneys and bladder is winter. So for example, you will find Qigong for the kidneys is traditionally that's one that tends to be practiced more in winter. The color that's associated with it is blue, dark blue, or black. So think of the ocean, that dark blue, the deep blue and the deep blue-black of the depths of the ocean. That's what the color associated with the kidney is. The taste, not surprisingly, if you think ocean, is salty. And of course, in our body, our tears are salty, our sweat is salty. So we have remnants of our belonging to the ocean. Our blood, of course, is salty. So that's the fundamental taste that's associated with kidney energy. So of course it has repercussions on what to do, and we'll see that a bit later, to strengthen that kidney energy. It opens into the ears. So here again, we'll come back to that a bit later. But basically, all of our senses depend on Jing and Kidney. So meaning that our eyes can see depending on our Jing energy. The ability of our nose to smell is also dependent on the Jing. However, more particularly, or you can say the sense that's basically associated with kidneys is the ears. It controls the bones, the teeth, the marrow, the nerves, and the brain. All right, so again, please bear with me. We'll come back to all of that and see the practical applications that we can derive from that. These are the classical definitions. That's what students of Chinese medicine memorize for their exams. This is what in the old texts is associated with kidney energy. So these old texts say that kidney energy flourishes into the hair. That means that one tool of diagnosis of our Jing is the quality of our hair. The time that is associated with kidney energy is 3 to 5, that's the bladder time, and 5 to 7, kidney time. So it's interesting, for example, that we can see that in many places you have the happy hour from 5 to 7, so it shows how people have weak kidney energy and in particular strong sugar imbalance and turn to alcohol to kind of give themselves a boost. So that's an indicator. So in Chinese medicine, in 24 hours, you have 2-hour segments that correspond to various organs, and it's the time when the qi travels in those systems. So meaning that ideally, if it was possible, let's say if you have bladder problems, the ideal time to be treated with acupuncture, of course, would be from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, or kidneys from 5 to 7. So it's not always possible in our modern life, certainly, to put that into practice, but in your personal life, you can take those elements, and if you do home remedies for your kidneys, you can choose the ideal times to do that, and therefore give more power or more strength to your own treatment. The function, as it is described, is the palace of fire and water. So we saw that at the beginning. Think of water, ocean. Think of water in all of our cells, 70% water, our body. And palace of fire, thinking of that basic pilot light, the basic electric flame that comes from water. That energy rules over reproductive organs and sexuality, which means that a vibrant sexuality is very dependent, totally linked to the health of our Jing. Our reflexes and instinct are also linked to that. So again, it's this unconscious type of reaction. Our reflexes, obviously, we don't think. We have, faced with danger, we automatically react either by running or by defense. So these depend on the health of our Jing. The secretion that's associated to that energy, not surprisingly, is urine, and the pathogen that damages kidneys and the kidney energy is cold. All right, so that's a basic definition of kidney energy in classic Chinese medicine texts. So let's look a little bit now if we can find an east-west mixing and how Jing would translate today. I've already mentioned that a couple of times, but just to summarize, you could say that the Jing in modern words would be equivalent to DNA and genetic heritage. Although it goes a little bit beyond that, but let's say that's a good basic equivalent, our genes and genetic heritage. Kidney yang would be equivalent to what we define as adrenals and their function. Kidney yin would be more our body fluids, blood, water, and everything that provides lubrication and moisture to our body. Included in kidney yin and kidney yang, as well as Jing, we find also the concept of endocrine system, hormonal system, reproductive functions, as well as vitality and bone structure. So for example, if you go to a Chinese medicine practitioner with osteoporosis, right away in the mind, in the head of your practitioner, there's going to be a little light. Okay, Jing, kidney weakness. All right, so that's the first thing. In order to get better, that will have to be revitalized either through acupuncture, herbs, food, etc. So I'm going to take a small detour because sometimes it's, there's room for doubt, like, well, it's all nice and pretty, but does it really hold when we compare to Western medicine, or is it just superstition or a nice poetic image, a nice poetic and imaging system like, water and kidney energy, ocean, very pretty, but is it real, or can it hold up to what we know in modern science? So here is a little summary of a few fascinating elements when you look at the Jing east and west. So, as we have seen, kidneys are, and what you see in red corresponds to Chinese medicine, and what you see in blue is what research today has given us and is telling us about kidneys. So, kidneys, water energy, store prenatal energies. That's Chinese medicine. What do we know on the Western front, or I should say more modern science? That water and kidneys play a fundamental role in the hydration and in DNA configuration. And this is a fairly recent discovery, is that water plays a tremendous role in the configuration and health of our DNA. Chinese medicine, genetic birth defects and degeneration are caused by Jing and kidney essence deficiency. Here again, research has confirmed a correlation between children's autism, schizophrenia, between Parkinson's and genetic problems to kidney and urinary bladder problems. So, and there have been a fair number of articles published on the topic in the medical literature. So this totally correlates again with the Chinese model. Chinese medicine says aging is ultimately an exhaustion of Jing. On the modern front, aging is linked to the deterioration of DNA structures, and in particular the telomeres. And there's been a lot of research and new new supplements have come out from that research in the last 10 years or so. And so, again, complete correlation between Chinese medicine and modern research. Chinese medicine says salty is a taste associated to kidney energy. And research has confirmed the role of salt in DNA structure. Of course, what we've known also for a long time is that kidneys play a crucial role in maintaining the level of sodium in our body. Again, total correlation. Kidneys control bones and teeth, Chinese medicine side. Kidneys control the reserve of calcium and phosphorus that maintain bone mass. That's Western research. Kidneys activate vitamin D to enable calcium absorption. So, total correlation again. Now let's look at the kidneys open into the ears, which is sometimes something that people have doubted because it is said in the old text that it's a signature theory that the ears look like kidneys and therefore that's what they correspond to. And of course, many scientists look at that doubtfully, saying, well, that's not very scientific. So if we look a little bit more at hard science, I'm taking a quote from Claude Amiel, a French nephrologist and one of the first to develop kidney transplants and artificial kidneys. And I'm quoting from one of his articles. He says, "The inner ear is a good study model for the study of the renal tubule." So meaning that he himself says that the best way to understand the kidneys is to look at how our inner ear functions. We also discovered that at an ultra-microscopic level, ears and kidneys share anatomical structures and identical cell mechanisms. Sound also depends on a vibration mechanism that's enabled by the liquids in the inner ear. So liquid and water play a big part in our hearing and ability to hear. And then finally, it has been discovered that the auditory and urogenital system develop at the very same time in the embryo between the 4th and 6th weeks. So when you look at that, it's actually pretty amazing to see how accurate Chinese medicine is. And in a way, it's almost like the more our modern science discovers and the more it shows the truth and validity of that model. So in the first part, we looked at what Jing meant because we need to understand what we are talking about if we want to continue. And the second part, now we're going to look at how to diagnose our Jing, our kidney energy, and the tools that we have to diagnose ourselves and evaluate our Jing. In the third part, we looked at the practical ways we can strengthen our energies and make our Jing stronger.